Let's bring in right now the Democratic Congressman of South Carolina, Jim Clyburn. Congressman, thank you for being with us. Yesterday was a tale of 2 days, really. I saw earlier yesterday afternoon you talking about what I've heard other Democrats quietly talk about, and that is the possibility of working with Donald Trump, finding legislation, whether it's on immigration or other issues, where Democrats and Republicans could come together. I'm curious your thoughts about what happened last night, and curious how Democrats and Republicans move through that and figure out how to work together moving forward. Do you still consider that possible?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It has got to be possible. You know, I am from South Carolina. My senior senator, Lindsey Graham, you've had him on this morning. He has a very good relationship with the new president, the old now new president. I have a very good relationship with Lindsey, and I am hopeful of having discussions with him as to how we can keep this country moving forward. You know, I listened yesterday. I was there for the inauguration, and the president invoked Martin Luther King Jr., whose life we were celebrating on yesterday. But he talked about the dream. You know, in spite of last Sunday's scripture lesson in Galatians 6:9, I'm growing a bit weary of the dream. I'm a bit interested in some realities here. And Martin Luther King Jr., several months before that I Have a Dream speech, was sitting in the Birmingham City Jail. And he wrote a letter on that day, and he said in that letter that he was coming to the conclusion that the people of ill will in our society was making a much better use of time than the people of goodwill. And so I want to see us look at King's letter, exactly what was on his mind when he had time to reflect while sitting in that jail, and begin to respond to King's notion that we've got to make a much better use of time, and that the people of goodwill need to come together and start working on behalf of this great country, which is great. But we've got to make this country as great and as accessible and affordable for all of its citizens. And so I am up for doing that. I want to work with my senator, both of them, to do that. I saw Tom Tillis, our senator to the north. I heard his comments. We need to think about our children and our grandchildren and think about what kind of country we want to leave for them. And we certainly don't want to leave for them a country with disrespect and disregard for law, for the law, and for this country's greatness. That is not going to get us there if we continue the kind of rhetoric we heard last night. The inaugural speech wasn't too bad. Last night, those speeches were horrible.
We heard Donald Trump after his inaugural speech go downstairs and talk to some of his most loyal supporters, saying a lot of things, a lot of conspiracy theories, bringing that up. In the middle of it, he talked about, he said that he had spoken to Chuck Schumer and said they have got to figure out how to come together and work and pass legislation. And I'm curious, where are there some possibilities for that sort of legislation where even after last night, which I think most Americans, I believe most Americans would be shocked by, but what's legislation that Democrats and Republicans can work together on and pass?
Well, you've mentioned already that the White House is talking about doing some real infrastructure programs that need to be done in our communities. We've done a whole lot for broadband internet. We've done a whole lot to repair bridges and widen roads. But we have not done enough with safety and security. Things like the infrastructure for water, safe drinking water, the infrastructure that needs to be put in place for the energy that we need to have going forward, not just for industrial needs, but for people's personal needs, making sure that people can afford the greatnesses of this country. You know, people need to have affordable energy, need to have affordable housing. People need to have affordable education. That is what makes for a great country. Make it affordable, make it accessible. There's no need to have all of these great things. You talk about how good our healthcare system is. Can everybody afford it? No, if you're going to roll back the Affordable Care Act, if you're going to get rid of the $35 per month insulin, my late wife has suffered from diabetes. She fought it for 30 years before succumbing 5 years ago. I saw her insulin bill, $600, $700, and $800 a month. She was a full shot a day diabetic. Now she had insurance and it's fine. But for those people who do not have insurance, capping their insulin at $35 a month, those senior citizens, was God sent for them. We don't need to have our senior citizens rationing their health care, cutting pills in half because they cannot afford it. Insulin, we got it, the rights to it for $1. But now we are letting big pharmaceutical companies take advantage of that. These are the kinds of things we can work with the president on if we can get good health care for everybody. Don't tell me that you are against the Affordable Care Act and not show me what you are for. It is their deeds. Matthew, the 7th chapter, you have been talking religion here this morning. This frustrated preacher, son of a fundamentalist minister. Go to the 7th chapter of Matthew and let's talk about deeds and stop the words. That's how we know people, by their deeds.
Well, we saw some of that last night. Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.